Oh,
How you doing?
fine. I'm fine, thank you. And how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well also.
Good.
Also, yes. I see the guys in the Alatra English speaking group have put things on hold for the time being.
Oh, you mean on the Skype at Ilana's
Yeah,
group? Oh,
yeah, Alana's group due to the situation, as she terms it. So,
oh, I see. Okay.
so I didn't like but I guess it's
The war.
one of those things, where it's just not practical to participate, I guess. So.
You didn't ask her.
Well, no, I thought I was agonizing over what to write anyway, but then I sort of thought, oh no, well, maybe we should just talk about it tonight to see whether,
Yeah.
or what to say, if anything. It's hard to know.
Well, I think I think it's important to say something. Because we've between us we've developed a friendship, and it's there's nothing we can do. But sometimes it's just great to be able to share something. So so yeah, maybe if we both do something, I think it's probably just send her just tell her that, like we're doing now, we're thinking about it.
Yeah, she's got a fair few participants in that group, from what I've seen. So
yeah. But, anyway, we'll find out. So what have you been thinking about?
Not a whole lot, really. Just every time I turn the TV on and see news, I regret it instantly. But yeah, not a lot. No, just been doing a bit of creating over the weekend, so it's a bit of time in the workshop, which has been good. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, how did your cheese boards go?
Yeah,
not cheese boards, your sushi boards.
Sushi boards, or whatever you want to call them. You can use them whichever way you like. So yeah. No, they're pretty popular. They go pretty quick. So
okay, that's great.
Well, I just do everyone as a unique one. I don't try and mass produce them or anything like that. I just let the piece of wood talk to me, and off it goes.
And then what do you have to post them to people, or do people come and collect them?
Oh no, just people through work and stuff like that just ask me if I can make one for them. So
I see. Okay. Yeah.
I don't normally charge for them unless someone specifically wants to pay for them. I just tell people that my parole officer covers the costs. So,
Yeah. I'm on about talking about cheese boards. I had a cheese board a couple of years ago, and slowly it broke and broke and broke. And now I'm sitting with it must be about the size of my one hand now. Okay. I still use it.
So it must have been like just a few pieces of wood glued together, was it?
I have no idea, but everything gets cut. I've got a breadboard which is basically too big, and it's got like a handle on it. The way it's designed, and I could do without the handle, and then it would be big enough, which is about the length of a loaf of bread. But yeah, this little one, I cut tomatoes on it, and cucumbers and everything else. It just gets used for everything. And then every now and again, I put it in the dishwasher, and so I think it just deteriorates. The internet is telling me it's unstable.
Is it? Okay.
I got a message come up. But anyway, let's carry on and just see what happens. Just let me know if you can't hear me.
Must be the full moon.
Yeah, we've just passed it. Or no, yeah, no, the 18th was last month. What is it? We've just passed full moon, haven't we?
Yeah, it might have been yesterday or something. I'm not sure.
Was it
I'm not
yesterday?
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, Sue shouts out the day before. Okay.
A day before, was it? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
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 It was nice and bright early in the
Yeah,
morning. So.
absolutely. Absolutely. And particularly bright this time because I don't know, I don't think any clouds in the sky a day ago. It was sort of like daylight.
And so how are you feeling? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm absolutely I'm feeling okay. Interestingly enough, this morning I sort of deviated slightly from my very strict diet, that plant-based diet that we were talking about, and within an hour or two I actually felt down in the dumps. Okay. You know, it's not scientific, but you know, one assumes it. You know,
well, you feel how you feel.
Yeah, the feeling is definitely, but you know, would it have happened? You know, I don't know, but no, I'm sleeping well. Other than that little hiccup this morning, for a week now, been feeling good. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
And my definitely, I'm pushing myself, but when I walk, you know, the kilometer that I walk, I push myself, and the pain is getting less in my calf muscle now. So yeah, it is good.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Keep that up.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got a house inspection again. Landlords, you know, the agent comes in and inspects as they do in Australia, and that's coming up on Tuesday. So you know, we've been tidying the garden and the garage and things like that. And, you know, when you've got dogs that do their business in the garage because you know that's what they, then you've got to really give the garage a good clean. But yeah, so that's what we've been doing this weekend.
Yeah. So what's on your mind for tonight? Much more?
Yeah, you know, for years now, you and I, and we started off quite intensely some time ago when I also wrote quite a lot about it, and it was consumerism and, you know, the consumeristic society and so on. And yeah, and it somehow, it sort of, in my mind, there was like something missing, but I couldn't verbalize it, and I couldn't. But in the last 2 days and today, I wasn't thinking of on consumerism, but I was thinking about another word that I think fits the bill for that missing link, and that word is sustainability. And somehow that somehow is, I mean, it's almost a verb in the sense that there's something you can do, okay, and there's all sorts of things, you know, as a planet we can do things, we can look at things from a planetary point of view, and we could say, well, you know, we need to have, you know, all sorts of sustainable rainforests. Okay, we need to have sustainable oceans, and you know, we need to have sustainable coral reefs. the Great Barrier Reef, and yeah, so so you can move in. We need to have sustainable farming methods. Okay. We need to have sustainable soil. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm thinking a lot about this word sustain and sustainability, and so we also hearing about climate change and climate change. I don't think. I think humans think that they can do something about climate change. Okay, but let's leave that on aside for the moment, because I think somehow it doesn't fall firmly for me into that category of sustainability. I bring it down to smaller things, and say, well, what I was thinking is, how can I contribute to the planet as an individual in my daily life by being aware of how important sustainability is. Okay. Little things like, washing up liquid that is friendly to the planet, okay, to the waters, and so on, okay, and things like that, okay, so that's what I've been thinking about, is somehow that word, I think for me was the missing link on when we were discussing at great lengths the consumeristic society, and we were talking about spirituality and the alternative, but somehow when you think about sustainability, it's something you can do. Okay, you can do, and there are lots of groups around the planet and in this country as well that are grouping to maybe save the oceans, or save the Great Barrier Reef, for example, and there are others that are now, if you move into organic eating, that now is supporting sustainable farming on the planet, okay, and it's also supporting your sustainable health as well. So yeah, and how far does it go? What is sustainability? People talk about having a plant-based diet, means you're not eating animals, and basically the animals are eating all the plants, okay, and contributing in other negative ways as well. So do we support that by buying the meat and enjoying that, or do we not? So those sort of little things, sustainable things that we as individuals can do on a daily basis by just becoming more aware of things as maybe science brings it to us, about this is not sustainable, that the obvious things are fossil-based energy, for example, not sustainable, and not doing our planet any good. But then you look at Australia, and I don't know about on your east coast, but yeah, on the west coast, you're almost paid to put solar panels on your roof, okay, with all sorts of subsidies and discounts and things like that. Certainly I think as a starter, that is part of sustainability, okay, And I think it's only part because, I'm not sure in the long term whether how these solar panels are made supports sustainability. Okay, certainly the concept of energy and getting energy, it is, but how they're actually made is a little suspect at the moment. But I'm sure science will catch up on that. Anyway, so yeah, what's your take on that?
Well, one of the things that's sort of been exercising my mind a bit lately, and I've sort of been thinking about it on and off over the last couple of weeks, sort of goes to this issue about, well, I mean, from a consumeristic point of view, it goes to the heart of the issue about marketing and advertising. Because one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, and it requires a bit of precision to explain it, is the idea of having information presented that enables you to make informed decisions versus having information, I don't think it's presented, I think it's sort of shot at you.
Yeah, shoved down your throat.
Yeah, trying to manipulate an outcome. And it's an interesting thing because the more I've thought about it, I often think about, like on social media, how quick some people are to sort of say, to criticize or to say, no, it's this or it's that, or you're wrong or you're right or whatever. And the interesting question for me is why do people think, and I hasten to add, I don't think they do think, but why do they think that imposing a point of view on other people is appropriate? And that sort of has had me thinking a lot around, not that I hardly do anything on social media, and even on some of the forums in which I participate, I don't advance or advocate a particular point. I might share something to say, well, this is a perspective that I see around this particular issue. But I certainly don't take that next step and say, therefore everyone should be doing it.
Yeah.
And for me, and it's sort of like magnified like a million times at the moment when you listen to politicians talking, trying to get themselves re-elected, the language they use, and it really is manipulative. It's imposing a view which can be quite foreign to a lot of people onto them as if it's the truth. And yeah, I'm struggle with it.
Yeah.
But my response to it is a bit like your sustainability idea, in that it's not a matter of you must do this. It's a matter of, well, in how you live your life, it's sort of like posing the question, what sort of things do you think you can do which might reduce waste or, whatever,
Yeah.
However you want to put the context around sustainability. And it sort of had me thinking, and I'm trying not to sort of react, but it had me thinking in the sense that when you listen to so many messages in the public domain, they are quite manipulative. They're all, generally, perhaps the majority, are aimed at imposing a point of view on other people.
True.
And as I say, when I see people participating in social media, it's like, oh no, you're wrong, or you're an idiot, or blah blah blah, and whatever. And that's just had me thinking, well, not so much about what right do they have. I mean, because volitional freedom and karma and all that sort of thing, they all operate, on the basis of that. But just being more aware about how information is presented and ensuring that when information is presented, is not done in a manipulative way, but done in a way to just sort of, hopefully, to add some extra dimensions to someone's picture of a topic.
Yeah, to inform them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the step further I go is some people, particularly on social media, see it as a sword fight almost. Like my view must prevail.
Yeah.
I must be right.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's very interesting what you say, because I've had the experience with my oldest daughter. Okay. When I told them, well, when I sent them that audio that I sent you as well, my daughter, came back, she had solutions. Okay. And I was still trying to get my mind around my problems, okay, my health problems. I was still trying to settle down, and she was saying, "Oh, you've got to take canine pepper, okay? It really is just for this for blood pressure and blood sugar levels and blood clots. It really is, and you must take it, get." And I sort of sit back. Now, she meant well. She has the knowledge. Okay, it's part of what her life is about. But I wasn't ready for that sort of what can you call it? What you're trying to describe here. I've had time. I've had a week to settle down on it now, and I've researched canine pepper, and on my shopping list now. Okay, so I've always taken pepper, but never canine pepper.
It's sort of funny because I saw just a little grab, of Saguru there probably a week or two ago, and that might have actually been a little bit of the spark with some other stuff that sort of had me thinking about it a bit. But he just said, like when someone's offering you advice, maybe the first question to ask them is, well, do you do this?
Yeah.
Because so many people hold themselves out to be experts across any topic.
I agree. No, I agree, and that's why. Now, in my daughter's case, she does. She uses it regularly, and she's like me. She doesn't talk about something unless you do use it, or and if you don't, then you make it clear that you don't. And yeah, so no, she's got that, and I call it an ethic. I think, yeah. It's like I won't talk about everybody must go into a plant-based diet just because I've been 7 days on a plant-based diet. Okay? And I want to see, if my benefits are long-term.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then I will talk about it. Okay. And then there's probably a difference with the examples that you used of a politician manipulating, and somebody who's enthusiastic about their belief system. Okay. Because I can get enthusiastic about something I believe in. Okay. But it might be perceived by somebody who doesn't believe in it as being manipulative. Possibly.
Well, and that's the challenge, isn't it? Because I mean, even like from a religion perspective, you can have very enthusiastic people across a number of different religions, and they'll all think that
they're right.
Their path is the best path.
Yeah. But it is the best path. You see, each one of them is the best path. Yes. Okay.
But I'm not sure their awareness went to that level. I think it was
Yeah.
If it's good for me, it must be good for everyone.
Must be good for everyone. Yeah, yeah, true. And yeah, religions are like that, but aren't they? You're quite right. But how does it differ from somebody who's enthusiastic about a plant-based diet?
Well, I mean, to give you another example, like, I mean, I often get asked the question at work about, what's the best tool? What's the best thing, I'm in the market for this, and what's the best one? And, and I deliberately avoid answering the question in the sense I always just, say, sometimes I suppose people think it's a rather glib answer, but I just sort of say the one that meets your needs. That's the best one for you.
Yeah.
But it's the truth, like.
But I mean, surely he means two identical tools. Okay.
Well, even so, I mean, a tool is exactly as the word implies, is something to help you do something. And in the absence of knowing what it is you're doing and how you do it and your preferences and all that sort of stuff, then the best, in that case, from my perspective, is the best tool for the job is the one that's going to help you do what you're seeking to do. And I see other people quite often interpret that as meaning, oh, well, the best tool is this brand, or it's this, or it's that, well, that's consumerism.
Yeah, that is consumerism. Yeah.
Because it was interesting, like, it was a couple of weeks ago now, I think it was, they had a meeting at work and they were just giving everyone an update, like, on the financial position of the organization and, their strategy and what's happened over the last 4 years, year on year, and all that sort of stuff. And one of the ways they articulated their strategy is to have the best brands.
And
I was just, when they said that, it just had me thinking, okay, that's interesting.
You don't do business advising for them, do you?
Not on that, no. But it's an interesting question. It's one of those things that I guess if people are looking for guidance, and it doesn't matter what the topic is, whether it's health or or woodworking or whatever, if someone is looking for guidance, then it's really important that those who want to help try and provide some guidance do it in such a way that it helps them understand how to look. It's like when you research, how to look for what the options are to enable you to make an informed decision. But I'm not even sure some people see, like research in that light. They just see it as, give me the answer. Google, tell me what the answer is to this question. And that's not research. That's just flipping the coin. That's all that's doing. Just a more sophisticated coin.
Yeah. Research is interesting. Research is interesting.
And that's one of the reasons I really like your approach, when it's like, well, why? It invites further thought and consideration around whatever the topic is, Instead of tell me what to buy, tell me what to spend my money on. Because that's what marketing departments try and do, is encourage you to spend your money on their products.
Totally. Absolutely. Totally.
Which would beg the question then, that in a presumably a post-consumerism society, what does advertising look like? Well, advertising within that sort of context would be something of trying to raise people's awareness of options.
Yeah.
So to have your particular product or service or whatever included in the decision set, rather than trying to manipulate the decision to say it has to be this. Because a post-consumerism society, presumably, is one where people can make informed decisions.
But whose responsibility is that? Is that the person who manufactures the product or a product, or is it the consumer that has to make those informed decisions?
Well, I think it's both. Because I know from the time that I've spent in corporate land in a highly consumeristic environment, the decisions that are made within the organization usually go to how do we produce this cheaper so that we can increase our margin, and how do we sell more of them? And it's like all of those sort of questions, rather than how do we develop a product which is going to be truly aligned to the customer's needs.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's just black and white like that.
Oh, no, it's not. Of course not. Of course not. No.
Yeah, if you're manufacturing a product, to look at it, to see how can we produce it cheaper, okay, might be very valid, because then if you can produce it cheaper, not to increase your margins necessarily, but to bring your price down, which the consumer benefits, but maybe you benefit as well, because now you're going to sell more of it. So I don't think, I think that type of, I don't think that's consumerism.
No, well, it depends on the intent around it, in my view,
Yeah.
because if the intent is driven by how do I increase my profits, and this sort of loops back to this discussion we had ages ago about the business planning process, about, well, why are you doing this, But if my motivation is I've got to enhance my profits every single year, then that's going to lead to decisions which are not necessarily going to be in the consumer's best interest.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, while you're talking, I'm thinking of how space travel has so dramatically reduced in cost since the new invention of a reusable rocket. Okay, that was it. Somebody designed that, and you have a rocket to send a capsule into space, or a satellite into space, and then that rocket comes back, which is the most expensive part of it, and lands. Okay, now all of a sudden, that cuts the cost by an enormous amount. Okay, so science has evolved, and people have developed, an individual has developed, and an individual probably made money from that development. Okay, because it's just but everybody benefits. Okay? So with that sort of development and the cutting the costs dramatically, just means that there can be more, and there are, as a result of that. Okay? Evidence is in the proof of the pudding is in the eating. There are now more rockets going up on a weekly basis than ever before, because it's now not expensive. So, and it's not just restricted to one person, okay, or one company, although it's predominantly one, but it's across the board as well. Yeah.
And it seems to have been a technology which has either been shared, or the ideas around it have been adopted by many parties now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also the consciousness, the last, as soon as there's a monkey that the last monkey takes shares in the pudding, then the consciousness is suddenly people get the ideas, and more scientists. It's like the person who broke the 4-minute mile,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's done routinely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
But I think when you sort of, when you pose that question about, well, whose responsibility is it? I think if we intend to participate in conversations, then we need to exercise some personal responsibility around how we discuss some issues,
Agreed. Yeah.
So that it's not one of me trying to impose my will upon other people.
Yeah. 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 And it also depends on how somebody else poses the question or how they approach you. Will probably also influence you in how you respond. Okay, if somebody like they would, let's say, to a doctor, maybe, I've got a pain in my leg. I want a solution. Okay, and so the doctor gives you a solution. Okay. And that is now, in a sense, I guess it's quite blatant and to the point, and it's pushing a particular brand of solution, maybe. Okay, but that's what you asked. That's what you wanted.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, some patients feel quite betrayed or let down if they don't leave that doctor's office with a prescription in their hand.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the solution. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's their perceived solution.
Yeah, well, there's a very fine line between perceived and solution.
Well, that's right. I mean, they could give them a prescription to go and have glucose jelly beans.
Yeah, yeah.
But it still might relieve their pain. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because that's what they believe it to do. Yeah.
Yes, spot on, spot on. Okay. Yeah, but what you were saying, and perhaps it's what I've done in the past months, is get a diagnosis, okay, and then find your own solution. Okay. Then research your solutions and options. Okay. But it could have easily landed up that was taken out of one's hand. If the surgeon had said onto the table.
Well, that's true, and I sort of cast my mind back to, when my father was quite sick, with cancer and that sort of thing. I remember being with him, at one of those meetings with and he was actually a surgeon, and the surgeon says, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, you'll undergo this surgery and this is what will happen and blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying to him at the time, I said, and what are the other options? And he looked at me rather gruffly and says, what do you mean other options? I says, well, you've outlined your preferred option, but are there other options as well? It was very, very dismissive. It was almost like, well, how dare you question me?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And it wasn't like that with my surgeon. Okay, it wasn't. That's why I liked him. Yeah.
And maybe, the training of doctors and that has evolved a lot in recent times, because I just think about, like, when I went to the dentist, even, he sort of sat down and he sort of said, well, these are the options for you. Like, I didn't even have to ask. He said, you can do it this way, or you can do it that way, or, he says, we can do this procedure and I can do it here, or if you want to go to a specialist, they'll do it this way. or if you don't want to do either of those, well, we can just take the tooth out.
Yeah,
And it's like covered all the options, So
that's nice. Yeah, yeah,
and he just said to me, so it's up to you, like whatever you want to do, So
yeah. And that's the future. Okay,
mm,
that sort of a future is sustainable. Okay,
mm,
but the
mm,
previous future where, like you experienced with your father, it's
mm.
not sustainable anymore.
No,
It's not.
no.
Okay,
Mm,
and people have evolved. People don't want that necessarily unless they ask for it. Okay,
mm, mm.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a good point that you make. Like if they're asking for it, then they really have no reason to complain when that's delivered.
Yeah, yes, sure, sure. And they
Mm,
probably won't, okay. And
mm,
if it's
mm,
unsuccessful, they'll go back for another option without any
mm.
thought of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm. But I think you're right, and when you're talking about the sustainability issue around consumerism, because a lot of consumerism is not sustainable whatsoever. It's just consumption for consumption's sake.
Yeah.
But there are some important nuances around, well, what does it mean to be sustainable? Mm,
Well, given a lot of thought to that myself.
mm,
The, I think, you know, I think if you break the word up, okay, sustainable into sustain and able,
mm,
okay, there you got your
mm,
answer. Okay.
mm.
Um, uh, so yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't think necessarily to me it's pretty black and white, okay. Um, yeah.
Well, another sort of question around it, in one sense, is that when you cast your mind back to conversations that you had with, say, with Moya or other spiritual teachers, reflecting now, like, was the language that they used in response to questions which were asked of them ones which invited you to think about things further, or was it just like, no, here's the answer?
Mm, mm,
Because my inclination is that when I reflect on some of those conversations, well, let me sort of broaden it. Some people are very critical, for example, of Sadhguru. They say, oh, he's avoided the question. Like I was watching a video the other night, and the student said, oh, if you're in a situation where you had the baby Hitler in front of you, would you kill that child? And his answer, he, he took them on a journey, and he basically said, well, when you look at what Hitler was very, very good at, he was very efficient at harnessing, the anger and the violence in the community. In fact, he made it into an industry. He says, but if it wasn't him, he says, it'll probably be someone else. He says,
yeah,
because the trouble is, he said, the root cause of it is the anger and the violence in the community. And if someone can come along and harness that and direct it, well, then you get those sorts of outcomes. But the problem is not the baby Hitlers.
it's Hitler. Yeah.
It's the problem is the violence and anger in the community. And
Mm.
unless we start addressing that, instead of wanting to shoot babies,
Yeah, yeah,
then,
yeah.
then the problem doesn't go away. So,
Brilliant answer. Very thoughtful
mm,
answer. Yeah,
mm, mm,
yeah, yeah. I also listened to a couple of since we chatted, or maybe over the last week, I'm not sure.
mm,
A couple of Sadhguru, just
mm,
they just came up. I didn't go
mm,
searching for them. They just I was
mm,
maybe researching something or watching something,
mm,
and the next video was Sadhguru, and,
mm,
uh, and yeah, you were speaking about what he said about soil, and and I listened to something as well by him, also like a coincidence. Okay, yeah, very, very, very interesting.
Mm.
I was trying to think. There was one. Uh, as I say, I watched a couple. There were three young students opposite him, and they were talking about energy. And food. I suppose that because I was busy researching for myself about my health and food and stuff like that. Obviously, that's probably why it was one of those videos that just came up. You know what Google does? It puts 2 and 2 together and makes 6, and gives it. And he was saying, to the young students, in answer to the question's not important here. He says, I'm going to, in the next 5 days, I'm going to be visiting 5 different countries. Okay. But I only eat 1 meal a day. Okay. But I'm very conscious of what I eat, how I eat, and the things that you mentioned the last time we chatted, Don. You were saying those things, and he says, all that together, sustains me. Okay. So, that was an answer to a question, and you can imagine what the question was. Okay. But I found the answer also very interesting. That awareness of what you are eating, and that respect and the gratitude around the food and how it got to your plate.
Yeah, well, I guess, as I said, it's all of those sorts of things which have had me thinking a lot lately around, asking myself anyway about, well, am I trying to impose my views on other people? And it's a really precise thing that you need to work through, that you're not even sort of subconsciously or unconsciously trying to bring others' views around to your way of thinking. And I guess it's that openness that is the discipline internally to say, well, let me be open, to a broad spectrum of views. Not only what I think, which is typically historically formulated on, my own prejudices and biases.
Of course it is. You see, I think you've hit something on the head there. Because if I just take the example of what I've done in the last 7 days, I stopped any sort of thoughts about developing a business and so on, because any extra time I've done looking at my health and problems. Okay, so I've just put the other sort of things on hold for now, and there are highly qualified doctors who are purporting and showing you and giving you the references of scientific evidence of their point of view. Okay, and then there's another sector that do exactly. They're also highly qualified. They've also got thousands of scientific studies and evidence. Okay, but the two don't gel. Okay, now as a researcher, or as a person who's wanting answers, maybe that's a better word. Where do you go? Who? What? Because they're not the same. Okay, and so do you have to go back to?
Not only are they not the same, quite often they are in direct conflict with each other.
Yeah.
Direct conflict.
Yes, they can be, and they if you talk about education, they're both parties. I'm talking about maybe 3 on the left side and 4 on the right side. Different. They themselves are not, and they might know each other, but they may or may not. They're highly qualified. They in similar sort of fields, and yet they're giving different advice based on what they believe. Okay, and I give up on people very easily if I find that they're selling a product. Okay, I really do. If I find there's some sort of conflict, then I put it aside. Okay, because now there's a bias, and they want to market their product, and that's their choice. But if I'm trying to look for what is truthful for me in any particular circumstance, then that doesn't work if you now are pushing a product.
But I think even when you sort of look at it from through the lens of sustainability, and not so much the health issue, although it still has application, but for example, if someone has an annual income of say $150,000 a year, which enables them to live a certain lifestyle, when you raise the question about is it sustainable, they'll sort of say, oh well, I use my recycling bin, and I use this and I use that. They're all little things that they say around activities to either ease a conscience or to, contribute to their definition of what sustainable is. But when it comes down to it, and you look at some of these bigger issues like climate change, sustainability might mean how adaptable are we? It recognizes, as you said right at the outset, that, well, maybe we can't change this, but if this is what the environment is going to look like, more severe storms or flooding or fires or drought or disease or whatever, then what do we need to change to enable us to be adaptable, i.e. therefore sustainable?
Yeah, right. I understand what you're saying. Interesting.
And the same sorts of principles might apply. For example, you find yourself with some blocked arteries or a blood clot or whatever. So the question for you is what changes do I need to make to enable me to adapt to that situation, which gives me a pathway to my picture of health for myself, rather than saying, what drug do I need to take?
Yeah.
Or what surgery do I need to do? Or what, which seems to be like a silver bullet answer. And I think within the concept of sustainability, it's not a silver bullet answer. It's about, what do I need to shift in terms of my perception and my ideas and my focus to enable me to be more resilient or more adaptable, to ensure my food supply, to ensure my energy supply, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah. It's so interesting what you're saying. Because part of my research, and I would sort of jump around a little bit, because once I had a diagnosis, I also wanted to know why I had got to that point.
Yeah, what brought me here? Exactly.
What brought me here? Okay. Yeah. What brought me here? And that was horrific. Okay, because I was following that group of people who I had respected, and I had taken a lot of the information, I had written about it and promoted it. Due respect to them, okay, they had helped me get rid of a particular disease, arthritis, okay, and it got me, but their solution for that was the cause of my current problem. Okay.
And I think in the health context, that's the real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we treating the symptoms or are we treating the cause? So
I was treating the cause the first time, okay, from this advice, okay. was treating the cause, and I got the cause solved.
Mm.
Okay, which is just a basically inflammation between two bones. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
and the solution was a lot of oils. Okay, basically in your diet. Okay, and a few other things, but. In order to build up what had disappeared between those two bones, causing the pain, okay, the nerves, okay, but that was the cause of the blood clot, okay. So I guess so. Looking at the, I don't want to fall down the same thing. I don't want to have this conversation with you in 5 or 10 years' time again, and say, well, now because I've now going on to a 100% plant-based diet, and I solved my blocked arteries and things like that, but all of a sudden, I die of malnutrition or something,
Well, and I think that's the thing is that if a version of a plant-based diet means that you have to take more supplements, then maybe that's not sustainable, So
not
you
sustainable,
need...
not sustainable. Okay. But it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to take more supplements.
No,
okay?
that's right.
Because the nutrients are in every single plant. Okay. Okay, you just got to find out, which plants or diversity of plants. You've got to understand your own body and your reactions to certain things that you. But definitely, supplements are not the solution. Okay, they can help you get over a particular problem. Okay, but they can't be the solution. Yeah. Yeah.
It was funny. I was talking to my older son a little bit earlier today. He was mentioning that he had some friends over yesterday, and how those friends, well, the whole family had an episode of COVID go through. And he said it's really interesting, like from it was his observation. He said how, like in that family, they had really bad experience with COVID, and they still haven't got over it, like months down the track. They're still exhibiting, like a bad cough or extreme fatigue or whatever. And I found it fascinating. He sort of said there must be something missing from their diets for them to have such a poor, recovery from this.
Yeah.
And his sort of conclusion was, well, my wife had COVID, but we sort of eat healthy and we took precautions and all the rest of it. And she was the only one who got it. No one else in the family got it, So where he said, with this family, his friends had come over, there was mum, dad, and two kids, and one of the kids was a baby. They all got it, and they're all still suffering months down the track.
Yeah. And
yeah. And even that conversation, not so much the conversation with my son, but that conversation in the broader community, they talk about long COVID and, asymptomatic COVID, as if to say that it's the disease is the only factor around, like you roll the dice and, you've got long COVID, so you'll be having, a bad health outcome for months or years potentially, where that's probably not the reason. The reason may well be is you've got that your immune system is not as robust as it probably needs to be, and therefore it's having trouble shaking this off.
Yeah.
So,
bottom line.
Yeah. But it seems to be easy for some people to rationalize it away and say, I was just unlucky because I got the long COVID version.
Yeah. But don't we do that in our society? Okay.
Well, the sad thing is it didn't spark a question about, well, what change do I need to make to my diet or whatever?
That's the point, you see.
To give me more resilience.
Yeah. They make a statement like you say there, and
that was a lot of the politicization, I think, of the well, not only, but one of the factors around the vaccination. It was, oh, if I have the vaccination, I'll be protected. Well, not if you eat like a scrub pig, you won't. You know?
Yeah. It's the eating, not the vaccination.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You know, and then some of these people get very disappointed. You know, I still got COVID, but I've had my 3 injections or 4 or whatever it is. You know,
Yeah.
what's happened? Well, that should be flashing a big red light above your head to say, you know, that your immune system is not where you need it to be. Otherwise, it's just fix the blame fast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think they're all important issues and issues that we need to think through carefully, I think.
I agree.
With some precision, you know.
Yeah. And not casually. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good place to leave that conversation tonight.
Yeah. I think we must come back to sustainable.
Yeah, well, let's maybe put some intention around that for next Wednesday then.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, me too.
Okay, then. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Don. Me too. All right. Cheers, man. Bye.
Bye.